The Gnostics, a group of religious sects that emerged in the early centuries of the Common Era, left behind a profound and often misunderstood body of thought that remains a source of intrigue and fascination. At the heart of Gnosticism lies a complex system of esoteric beliefs that challenge conventional views of the divine, creation, and salvation. In particular, Gnostics are renowned for their dualistic worldview, which posits a division between the material and spiritual realms, as well as their radical rethinking of Christian doctrine. The teachings of the Gnostics are rooted in a deep sense of mystery and hidden knowledge, referred to as gnosis, which they believed could lead the soul to ultimate enlightenment and union with the divine. This path to enlightenment, however, was not easily accessible to the masses, and the Gnostics viewed themselves as a select group of individuals who were privy to secret esoteric wisdom that set them apart from the ignorant masses who adhered to conventional religious practices. Central to Gnostic thought is the concept of dualism, which is the belief in two opposing, often antagonistic, forces or realms. The Gnostics understood the material world and the divine spiritual realm as separate, with the material world being a place of corruption, suffering, and illusion, while the spiritual realm was viewed as the true, transcendent reality. This dualism manifested in various aspects of Gnostic belief, most notably in their interpretation of creation. Unlike traditional religious doctrines that see the material world as the creation of a benevolent God, the Gnostics saw the material world as the result of a cosmic error or a fall from a higher divine state. In many Gnostic texts, the creator deity of the material world, often referred to as the demiurge, is depicted as a lesser, ignorant being who mistakenly believes himself to be the supreme God. The demiurge is often portrayed as a blind, tyrannical figure who traps human souls within the physical world, preventing them from realizing their true spiritual nature. The Gnostic view of the demiurge stands in stark contrast to the Orthodox Christian belief in a benevolent God who created the world and deemed it good. For the Gnostics, the material world was not the divine expression of a perfect creator, but rather a prison for the soul. The divine, in their view, was transcendent and beyond the physical world, existing in a pure spiritual state of unity and perfection. The purpose of human existence, therefore, was not to engage with the material world, but to transcend it, to awaken to the hidden knowledge of the divine, and to return to the spiritual realm from which the soul had originally descended. This Gnostic dualism was not merely a metaphysical concept, but also had profound ethical and practical implications for Gnostic adherents. Since the material world was seen as inherently flawed and corrupt, Gnostics often rejected traditional religious rituals, social norms, and the pursuit of material wealth or pleasure. This knowledge, or gnosis, was seen as the key to spiritual liberation and the means by which one could escape the confines of the material world and ascend to the higher realms of existence. The Gnostic understanding of creation is closely tied to their dualistic worldview, which separates the divine from the material world. According to Gnostic cosmology, the ultimate transcendent God is an unknowable, formless source of all existence, often referred to as the monad. From this divine unity emanates a series of divine beings, or eons, who exist in a state of perfect harmony and unity with the monad. These eons represent different aspects of the divine, and their collective emanation forms the spiritual realm. However, the material world is seen as a fallen creation, the result of a misstep in the divine emanation process. In many Gnostic myths, the demiurge, often depicted as an ignorant or even malevolent figure, creates the material world as a reflection of his own flawed understanding of the divine. In some versions of the myth, the demiurge is portrayed as the offspring of a higher aeon or divine being who has become corrupted and ignorant, thus creating a world that is detached from the spiritual purity of the divine realm. The creation of humanity is similarly tainted by the demiurge's ignorance. Humans, in the Gnostic tradition, are often seen as containing a divine spark or soul that originates from the higher spiritual realms, but they are trapped within the physical bodies and the limitations of the material world. The human soul's true nature is hidden beneath the surface of its earthly existence, and only through the awakening of gnosis can the soul recognize its true divine origin and potential. This view of creation radically challenges the traditional notion of a good and loving God creating a world that is inherently good. Instead, Gnostics believed that the material world, while it may contain traces of divine beauty or wisdom, is ultimately an obstacle to the soul's true potential. In this way, the Gnostic view of creation reflects a deep sense of alienation from the world, a sense that human beings are exiled from their true home in the divine realm and must seek a way to return. In Gnostic thought, salvation is not achieved through faith alone or through adherence to external religious practices, as is common in many traditional religious systems. Instead, salvation comes through gnosis, a deep inner knowledge of the divine that transcends intellectual understanding and touches on mystical spiritual insight. This knowledge is not available to everyone, but is reserved for those who are capable of awakening to their true spiritual nature. For the Gnostics, salvation is not a process of redemption from sin or punishment, as in Orthodox Christianity, but rather a process of awakening to the truth of one's divine origin and the realization that the soul is not bound by the limitations of the physical world. The path to this inner enlightenment is one of personal transformation. Gnostics believed that the soul's journey toward salvation required an inner awakening that could not be achieved through external means or by simply following a prescribed set of religious laws. Instead, it was through the practice of meditation, the study of sacred texts, and mystical experiences that one could come to know the divine truth. The Gnostics placed great emphasis on the importance of personal revelation, which was often experienced through visions, dreams, or ecstatic states. These experiences were considered to be direct encounters with the divine, allowing the individual to gain knowledge of the spiritual realms and to transcend the illusions of the material world. In Gnostic teachings, Christ is often portrayed not as a savior who redeems humanity through his death and resurrection, but as a divine figure who reveals the hidden knowledge of the divine. In many Gnostic texts, Christ is depicted as a spiritual teacher or guide who helps lead the soul to enlightenment. His purpose is not to atone for sin, but to reveal the secret knowledge that enables the soul to escape the material world and return to the divine realm. This understanding of Christ as a revealer of hidden truths is a key feature of Gnostic Christianity and represents a significant departure from traditional Christian doctrines. One of the most distinctive features of Gnosticism is its esoteric nature. Gnostic teachings were often transmitted in secret, passed down through small, select groups of initiates who were considered to possess the necessary spiritual qualities to understand the hidden knowledge. This secrecy was not meant to create an exclusive or elitist religious movement, but was viewed as a way of protecting the sacred wisdom from those who were not ready to comprehend it. In Gnostic thought, the uninitiated were seen as ignorant and trapped in the material world, unable to perceive the deeper truths of existence. Only those who were spiritually advanced or who had been initiated into the mysteries could access the hidden teachings that would lead to enlightenment. The esoteric nature of Gnosticism is also reflected in the texts and scriptures that Gnostics produced. Many of these texts, such as the Gospel of Thomas, the Apocryphon of John, and the Pistis Sophia, contain teachings and stories that differ significantly from the canonical Gospels found in the New Testament. These writings often present alternative views of Jesus, creation, and salvation, and they are filled with symbolic language and allegorical stories that require careful interpretation. For Gnostics, The true meaning of these texts could not be understood by a superficial reading. Rather, the teachings had to be meditated upon and deciphered in order to reveal their hidden spiritual significance. The Gnostics were a diverse and complex group of thinkers who sought to understand the mysteries of existence through direct, personal knowledge of the divine. Their dualistic worldview, which posited a separation between the material and spiritual realms, shaped their unique understanding of creation, salvation, and the nature of the human soul. For the Gnostics, the material world was a prison for the soul, and the path to enlightenment lay in awakening to the hidden knowledge of the divine. This esoteric knowledge, gnosis, was the key to salvation and allowed the soul to transcend the limitations of the physical world and return to its true spiritual home. The Gnostics' radical reinterpretation of Christian doctrine and their emphasis on personal revelation continues to resonate today, offering a vision of spirituality that challenges conventional religious norms and encourages seekers to look within for the answers to life's deepest questions.